Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to talk about inheritance in Java. Inheritance is the concept from the object oriented programming language. It's not specific to Java or C or Python. It's a fundamental design for object oriented programming language. So, we can use this concept in C, Java, Python, and other object oriented programming languages. So, typically, inheritance means acquiring, getting the properties or behavior from superclass. So, before that, we should know what is superclass, what is subclass. So, in the definition, you see subclass is nothing but child class will inherit properties from the superclass, nothing but parent class. So, if you look at in this diagram, we have vehicle is a class, electric is a class, and model 3, model 7, Cybertruck, and non-electric Civic, Pilot, Ridgeline. These are the other classes. If you look at vehicle is the superclass, and electric and non-electrics are subclasses to superclass. If you look at this UML diagram, vehicle can be called superclass or parent class for electric and non-electrical subclasses. And also electric can be a superclass for three subclasses, which are model 3, model 7, Cybertruck. And non-electric can be a subclass of superclass vehicle and superclass for Civic, Pilot, Ridgeline. If you look at model 3, model 7 Cybertruck, it doesn't have any subclasses. So those classes only subclasses. So they may not be called as superclass because no other class is inheriting these classes. Same thing for Civic, Pilot, and Ridgeline. Those are subclasses. We cannot call it superclass because it doesn't extend any more classes. In this diagram, if you look at, we cannot say model 3 is a subclass of non-electric. No, because it's not directly inheriting the non-electric class. So model 3 is not a non-electrical car. So model 3 is not a subset of subclass of non-electric class. Same way, Honda Civic is not an electric car. So which means Honda Civic is not a subclass of electric. So if I summarize, model 3 is a electric car as well as model 3 is a vehicle. So model 3 is electric car as well as vehicle car. So same thing for model 7 is electrical car and vehicle car. But model 3 is not a non-electric, but it can be a vehicle. Similarly, Pilot is not an electric car, but it can be a vehicle. So there are three things in the inheritance: superclass, subclass, and extend is a keyword actually. So superclass is nothing but is a parent class, subclass is nothing but a child class. Class always extends superclass by using extends keyword in Java. Now look at this particular program. I have written a simple Spring application. We can go ahead with normal Java application, not a problem. The example is only for in inheritance, so we can have a normal Java project also fine. So if you look at model 3 extends electric and extends vehicle. So I will be creating a model 3 class, electric class and vehicle class, and I'm going to demonstrate few things. So if you look at here, this is the vehicle class, get method and constructor, electric class, constructor and get method, get model, model 3 constructor and get model. So when we create an object for this model 3, internet will call electric, internet will call vehicle. So it will go all the way to all the superclasses and touch and come back and create the configuration for model 3. So when creating an object, each class, every class will call super, means superclass constructor, and get the behavior from superclass and create an object for current class. So if I create an object for model 3, it's going to create a, it is going to call electric, it is going to call vehicle, and vehicle is a superclass, so there is no more superclasses here. So vehicle class constructor will be called, after that electric, after that model 3, then model 3 object will be created. So if you look at here, so I'm creating an object for model 3. Okay, what it will do, first it will try to create a constructor, but there is superclass, it will go to electric, it will try to create a constructor here, but it has a superclass, it will go to vehicle, so there is no more superclasses here. But typically object class is the superclass here, that is implicit. So it's going to call this method and come back here and complete this constructor and come back and execute this constructor. Let's run this application from here. This is the main method, and I'm creating constructor for subclass. See, vehicle constructor created first, electric constructor created secondary, and model object or model constructor called third time at third level. So first subclass constructor will be called superclass, superclass constructor will be called executed when the object creation is kind of, when the superclass properties, everything configuration is completed, it will come to subclass and it's going to create subclass. It's a chain of events. Let's look at method inheritance. Suppose vehicle has a method called get vehicle ID, or electric class has a method get electric ID, and model 3 class has a method get model 3 ID. So model 3 can you access get model 3 ID as well as get electric ID, because electric is a superclass for model 3, as well as model 3 class still can access get vehicle ID because it's a super class for model 3. Let's look at the code. So in the previous example we have created this object. Let's rerun this guy. Okay, so 3 constructors called, which we have explained. So look at this model 3 class, it extends electric, and electric, okay, model 3 has this get model 3 ID, go to electric, electric has get electric ID, vehicle, vehicle has get vehicle ID. So if you go here, I create an object for model 3, so model 3 dot get get model. This is from model 3 class. Get electric ID. So this is from electric class, as well as model 3 get vehicle ID. This is from vehicle class, because model 3 is extension of electric is extension of vehicle. Let's run this guy. So constructions are done. So this is coming from this is coming from electric. Okay, let's call this guy. Let's rerun this guy. See, model 3. This is model 3. Electric ID. This is electric ID. This is vehicle ID. So it's nothing but subclass can access superclass methods. Now we will see how variables can be accessed through inheritance. Suppose vehicle has a variable vehicle ID, the value is 10. Electric class has a electric ID, value is 20. And model 3 class has a model ID 30. So model 3 can access model ID, electric ID, vehicle ID. So model ID is 30, electric ID is 20, vehicle ID is 10. So I have created an object for model 3. Let's print some values here. Model 3 dot model ID is nothing but this one. Electric ID is nothing but this guy. Vehicle ID is nothing but this guy. See, 30, 20, 10 displayed. So this is how we can access inherited variables by using Java. Now look at private members accessibility in inheritance. So private members, private variable or function or method having accessibility within the class only. If you define a variable as a private, so that variable is accessible only within the class only. As well as if you define a method as private, you can access that particular method within the class only. Outside the class, those private members are not accessible. If you look at this example, vehicle ID is 10. Okay, we can access from model 3. But if you look at electric, the variable is private electric ID is equal to 20, which is private. So model 3 cannot access electric ID. Let's look into the code. So this is the same example. If you look at here, electric, I would say private. So I made it as private means this guy is available only within the class, electric class. It may not be available in the subclass. Means this guy won't be accessible in the model 3. Let's look at here. I am trying to create a access electric ID through model 3. It's throwing an error. Let's run this guy. Electric ID has private access in electric class, so I cannot access from here. So if I need to access, what I should do, I should say public. Let's run this guy. Perfect. Let's look at something here. Private. Get electric ID. Get electric ID. See, this is not accessible. Get ID has private access. Same thing. Cannot find. So what should we do? Go here, say public. Rerun the application. Perfect. So as I said, private members are only accessible within the class. So private members typically has three characteristics: accessibility, encapsulation, and controlled access. Accessibility means private members can only be accessible within the class. Outside of the class cannot be accessible. We discussed. So encapsulation is nothing but keeping the members within the class. Outside of the class, we have no members, no methods. Everything inside the class can be called encapsulation. Third one, control access. Control access means keep the member size private and access those members through getter setters. Get function can be used to access the member. Set function is used to set the value, modify the value of the private member. We are going to explain in the code. So look at here. This is the model ID. What I am going to do, generate getters and setters for this guy. Okay, this is like a private. Okay, very good. So I'm not defining a value here, but it's a model 3 ID getter and setter constructor. So what I will do, model 3 set ID 3. So I'm setting the model 3 ID as 3 and trying to access. So I'm not hard coding here. So member, I'm keeping this member as private and accessing through setters and getters, which are public. Let's run this guy. See, setting 3 and the value we got is 3. So this is how we can use getter setters for a member.